Hip hop lost one of our legends with the passing of Irv Gotti. And I just wanted to do a video shouting out Irv, his accomplishments, and just what his legacy means to the music and to the culture. Irv Gotti passed away recently, and he was very young. He was only in his 50s. And from what we've seen publicly, it was after a series of strokes. And it's just super sad. I'm sure you've seen all throughout social media people saying RIP Irv and sharing some of their memories. And it got me really thinking about how important guys like Irv were to hip hop and to the culture. This is someone who, although a lot of people might know him because of Murder Inc., the label that he founded, huge label in the late 90s and 2000s. I mean, this was probably part of the soundtrack to a lot of us in high school and college. We're talking Ja Rule, Ashanti, Charlie Baltimore, Vita, all of those remixes he gave Jennifer Lopez. The ink was very much like part of all of our Sony Discman. But outside of the ink, Irv really is somebody who was able to bring what was going on in the streets, especially in New York, coming from Queens, and being able to translate that into the music industry. He's been instrumental in the careers of everybody from Jay-Z and Mic Geronimo to DMX. As many of you know, I'm knee deep in writing my Rockefeller book right now. And a lot of people may not know that Irv Gotti was Jay-Z's original DJ. He was DJ Irv. And he actually produced records on Reasonable Doubt. Like, he was someone who behind the scenes just had his hands in so many different places. Let's go back to the late 90s in hip hop. In the late 90s, Pac has passed, Biggie passed. Who was on top was Bad Boy. It was the shiny suit era. It was Puff Daddy and the family. That's who was running the game. And behind the scenes, Irv was very much a part of Jay-Z signing to Def Jam in 97. That's when Def Jam became part owners of Rockefeller and the imprint came under that umbrella. And then later, Irv was very much there to make sure the DMX got signed. So that was the Rough Riders deal that became a part of Def Jam. And Irv talks about it. He wanted to bring hip hop back to the streets. Enough of the shiny suits, enough of the bling. We want to see someone who's, from the gutter, someone who's very rough and raw. And that was what DMX was. And he always jokes, Irv joked about people like Leora Cohen, who was running Def Jam, just not seeing the vision. We don't get it. He barks like a dog. I mean, Irv did a really good Leora impression. I'm not going to try to imitate it. But after DMX's first record, that Get At Me Dog, which again starts in the tunnel, it's all about bringing the streets back. That was Irv. That was his vision. And then Irv said that he would have a picture of like 5 diamonds on his office at Def Jam. And he said, no, X is going to go 5 times platinum. No one at Def Jam believed him. And then X did 5 times platinum and more. And he went on to become one of the reasons, X and Jay-Z, why Def Jam had this amazing comeback. And all of a sudden, now they were at the forefront and they were the ones really steering that East Coast hip hop and what was going on out of New York. And whether you met Irv in person or you just saw him in interviews or TV, reality shows, he very much was what you see is what you get. And he comes of that school of just being very like brash and in your face and saying exactly what he's thinking. But hate him or love him, I think that passion is something that's so missing, especially from hip hop. I just feel like when I talk to so many A&Rs nowadays or executives or wannabe executives, and I say, who are you listening to? Who did you see live? And all they want to do is talk about stats. Well, I got this, spreadsheet and this is what this algorithm says and what this data says. And I'm thinking, I don't care about that. Like, what is your gut saying? And that era of executives and people who just loved hip hop in such a visceral way, I don't know. I just don't know if that exists anymore, at least not in a widespread way. So when people like an Irv pass away, or even Clark Kent passing away, it just makes you sad because it feels like an era is really changing and how badly we need that kind of passion, people who actually have a set of ears on them, who have a gut, who have a perspective, who are willing to go against the grain of what the system is saying, what the data is saying. And that's so necessary. Think about all of the greatest artists of all time. They were usually the people that no one believed in. It's Jay-Z, it's DMX, it's Kanye. These are not people who had multiple labels bidding on them. These are not people who came in with millions of followers. They were not sort of crafted and manufactured in the building. They had to fight to get inside. And it was people like the Irv Gottis of the world who really helped usher them in. And I wish that we see more of that. That type of spirit, that type of energy, just come back to the game. And I think it's just so important, not just for the artists and the music, but for hip hop to continue to move forward. You have to have people who love it, who live it, who breathe it. I think it's so important. And I think Irv Gotti was somebody who, he really lived life to its fullest. And, he had a lot of positives about him. He could be very controversial, very polarizing, but he was always unabashedly himself. And, hate it or love it, that's just who he was. So R.I.P. Irv, sending, thoughts, prayers, good vibes to everyone in his family, his friends, his colleagues. And, I think if anything, it's just such a testament to a life that really is dedicated to hip hop, to pushing the culture forward and going against the grain. And I think that's pretty great.